I have a solution that would prevent all corruption at the higher levels of government. It would eliminate, what I would consider to be bad leadership, because it would prevent people who go into political leadership with the wrong motivations. It would prevent them from ever achieving positions of great power. And that method that I want to propose is one that I don't think I've never encountered anyone else suggest this, but I think it's a good idea. I think we should torture the politicians. I think we should. I think for any position that has people competing for it, right? Any position of leadership and power that has people competing for it, I think the most important part of the competition should be pain. It should be a test of pain, I think. And this could work in different systems of governance too. Like this could be, you could have an election in a democracy, and you could select the two people with the most votes, and then subject both of them to a test of pain, and then the winner is chosen to lead. Or it could be I don't know. It could be in hereditary. It could be something where potential the different potential heirs to a throne, all have to endure the test of pain or something like that. Pretty much any, this could work in pretty much any governmental system, I think. But, really just choose some competitors and then torture them really badly. And the one who can hold out the longest gets the job. The one who can hold out the longest is the one who obviously wants the job the most, and therefore deserves it. And because and people might say, they might counter with, that it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to be a good leader, or doesn't necessarily mean they're getting into it for the right reasons. And that's a legitimate counterpoint. I don't agree. I don't think, I think that someone who's seeking power for selfish reasons, I think that person is going to break before someone who's seeking a position of power for what could be considered altruistic reasons, or that's a simplistic way of putting it, because every motivation is is a mixture of selfish and altruistic, and neither one of those is purely good or purely bad. It depends on what you do with it. But I think someone who ultimately has purer motives, I guess, is the one who's going to hold out against a wall of pain longer than someone who's just trying to scheme his or her way to power. And I think it would open the door to a lot of people who would make really good leaders, but in pre-existing kind of methods of selection would never get there, because in any kind of representative kind of system, it usually just becomes a popularity contest, or I guess a combination of a popularity contest and who has the best connections, who can get their name out there the most, who can spin the best propaganda, who can sell themselves the best. And it's not really, and so then people who would be genuinely good leaders are not necessarily well suited for that kind of contest. That's just not necessarily what their strengths are. They might make a really good ruler, but if they never get the chance because it's just a popularity contest, and it's about how well one sells oneself and brands oneself, then they might not, they'll probably never get the chance. But if it was and I'm not saying this example is literally how we should do it, but if you just had an open casting call, and you were okay, and anyone who meets these prerequisites can show up, be attached to a torture machine, and then we'll just torture this crowd of like 10,000 people, and we'll just see who lasts the longest. Eventually there will be one left. Probably. You might end up with like two left at the end. I guess that is possible, in which case, you would have some kind of tiebreaker. Like, I guess who is willing to like cut off the most body parts or something? Like who's willing to like actually do the most physical damage to themselves. I think that could be a good tiebreaker. You just like hand them a hatchet, and then it's like, okay, impress us, like, demonstrate that you really want this, and then we'll just see what happens. And one will be left standing at the end, one way or the other. That would be a tiebreaker. But you could do something like that, and I think, if someone is genuinely like a saintly kind of person and wants to be in charge, or maybe not in charge, but have power for noble reasons, I think that person would do well in this kind of contest and this kind of selection process. And, this is something I've thought we should do for a while, and I still think that. I think it's I've given it a lot of thought, and I think this is the best way to select who leads. I'm not saying it's perfect. Obviously any kind of selection process is going to have flaws, and it might go wrong. I think this is the best option we have, and I might even go farther. I don't know. We think we need to put this into practice and then see how it does, and then consider whether we need to do more. But I might go farther, and maybe the absolute ruler of a nation, of a state, person who's in charge above all others, should have some kind of permanent torture device implanted in him, and it would just leave him in a perpetual state of agony. And obviously masochists would have to be excluded from all of this. That would be because obviously that wouldn't work. We just have to exclude masochists and say, like, no, you just can't. You're not eligible. This isn't going to work. But so it'd be maybe a permanent torture device that leaves someone in unending agony. And so it's like, okay, like, beyond even the test of pain, do you really 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 want to be in charge? Do you in horrible agony is the head that bears the crown? How much do you really want this? How serious about being king are you? Are you willing to sacrifice your own well-being to the extent that you will be in horrible pain for as long as you occupy this position of great authority? I think that would weed out most people who don't really, because ultimately what this is doing, it's verifying that someone values the position and the good of the people one rules over above one's own personal good, above one's own personal comfort, above one's own state of mental well-being. It would it's like you have to be seriously committed to this. If you want to be the leader, then you have to suffer for it every single second of every day. Like it is a constant toll you're paying and bearing and enduring. And if you really value the people that you lead above yourself, then you'll be willing to do it. You'll hate it, but you'll be willing to do it. And if it's about you, if it's about your pleasure, your comfort, your advancement, your well-being above anyone else's, then you probably won't do it. You might try to do it, you might start out doing it, and then you'll be broken by the pain. And the pain will separate the wheat from the chaff, and it'll separate who really deserves to wear the crown and who's just a pretender.